Yes, good day. Okay, my name is Teacher Alex Mohembi, and I will be your facilitator for today. So today I'm going to take you through a nice session of mathematics grade 7. And briefly, I will be sharing the presentation so that we can cover what we are intended to cover today. So as you can see, today we are going to cover mathematics grade 7, and we are basically going to focus on the strand numbers. So our strand for today, or our area of focus, is going to be on numbers. So on this strand, or we call it topic, I will cover a few areas, and I'm going to major on classification of numbers. So let me take you through the expected learning objectives so that you can see what we intend to cover by the end of this topic. So by the end of the topic, you as the learner, you should be able to differentiate between natural numbers and whole numbers. So you need to do that. Number two, you should be able to understand the odd numbers, the even numbers, the prime numbers, and even you need to give examples in each case. And number three, by the end of this topic, you should be able to list all the prime numbers between 1 to 10, all the prime numbers between 1 to 10. So this is what we will cover today, and allow me to start. So as I've said earlier on, we are going to major on numbers. Our strand is going to be classification of numbers. So first of all, let's start by looking at natural and whole numbers. So we have various classification. Of course, I can simply list them. We have natural numbers, we have whole numbers, we also have integers, those are also numbers. We also have perfect numbers, we have composite numbers, we have odd numbers, we have even numbers, and we have what? Prime numbers. So we will just look at a few of them. For instance, we have natural and whole numbers. I will begin by getting to define what natural numbers are, because we need to understand from the basics. By knowing what natural numbers are, you can go ahead and even give what? An example. So we are all saying that natural numbers are counting numbers. These are simply counting numbers. And counting numbers always start with 1 and continues with 2, 3, and so on. So in this case, the dot means the numbers continue with no end. Therefore, we can say that natural numbers or counting numbers starts from 1 and continue to infinite or infinity. And in that case, we mean that they do not have the end, no end. So that is what we call natural numbers, and natural numbers are denoted by n. We denote them by n. The other group of numbers starts from 0, and it is called what? Whole numbers. And these numbers are denoted by W. So you can be able to see that. So we are saying that the numbers that start with 0, 1, 2, 3, moving forward, we call them whole numbers. So that means that natural numbers do not have do not start with the 0. 0 is not a natural number, but it is a whole number. So having said that, we can also say that counting numbers can further be classified into perfect numbers, composite numbers, coprime, or what you call relatively prime numbers, and prime numbers. We have even and odd numbers. So we are simply further classifying the counting numbers, the natural numbers. So having said that, we can now look at even the odd and the prime numbers. And by the way, we are going to simply focus on the three, the even, the odd, and the prime numbers. So I will start with the even numbers. And when you talk about even numbers, these are those numbers which are divisible by 2. We call them even numbers. The numbers that are divisible by 2, we call them even numbers. In other words, we can say that any natural number which can be divided by 2 is an even number. Any natural number or any counting number which can be divided by 2 is an even number. For example, we start with the 2. So 2 is an even number. 1 is not an even number. That is why we are starting with 2, because we can divide 2 with 2. 4 is also an even number. 6 is an even number. We are skipping 3. We are skipping 5. We are also skipping 7 so that we go to 8. We have 10, 12, and so on. So all these are even numbers since they are divisible by 2. Now, another group of numbers that we have highlighted there is what you call odd numbers. And when you talk about odd numbers, these are basically those numbers which are not divisible by 2. So the odd numbers are not divisible by 2. So in other words, we can say that any natural number, when divided by 2 and remains 1, including 1, are called odd numbers. So odd numbers start with 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and so on. So all of them are called what? Odd numbers. As you can see here, we have 1, we have skipped 2, meaning that 2 is not an odd number, it is an even number. We go to 3, we have skipped 4, we go to 5, we have skipped 6, we go to 7, and so on. So these are what you call odd numbers. These are numbers that are not divisible by 2. Call them odd numbers. Now, we can now look at the prime numbers, and I want you to pay attention to the prime numbers because this is an area which normally confuses most students. So we can define or look at the definition of prime numbers. So when we talk about the prime numbers, these are those numbers which are divisible by 1 and itself, excluding 1, or any natural number which is divisible by 1 and itself, except 1, we call it what? A prime number. For example, we have 2. So 2 is a prime number. We have 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17. So all of them are called what? Prime numbers. And we are saying that the prime numbers are divisible by 1 and itself. Now we can also say that the prime numbers, these are those numbers which only have 2 factors. They have only 2 factors, that is 1 and itself. So like in our case here, we had 2. We can divide 2 by 1, we can still divide 2 by itself. We can divide 3 by 1, we can still divide 3 by itself. So we are seeing that the prime numbers are divisible by 1 and itself. And we are saying that in this case, you can see 1 is not a prime number. We did not start with 1. So there is a good reason for that. And in that case, there is a quiz here you can see that 1 is not a prime number. Why? Why is it that 1 is not a prime number? So we always say that 1 has only one factor. 1 has what? One factor. So you can only divide 1 by itself, while the prime numbers have 2 factors. Hence, 1 is not a prime number. So remember, prime numbers has 2 factors. You need to have 2 factors. If it has one factor, it is not a prime number. If it has 3 factors, then it is also not a prime number. It is a composite number if it has 3 factors or more. But if it has 2 factors, then that qualifies to be a prime number. So this marks the end of our lesson. And for your assignment, we have 2 questions here. You'll be able to attempt them. They will be able to help you in understanding this area better. So with those very many remarks, I want to conclude our lesson at this point, and I wish you a nice time.